You say you searched all the base. Every nook and cranny. No chance of anyone hiding anywhere.
None whatever.
Did your men search in here?
Well,
did they?
There were always people in here, so...
Did they search in here?
No.
There are some corners of the universe which have bred the most terrible things. There is something evil here.
I saw this giant man.
You'll never get inside this base.
The oxygen mask!
They've punctured the dome. A new disease starts, people disappear, and then you turn up. I don't know who you are, what you are, or where you came from.
The paper.
But you can get off the moon now. Evans, you've got to concentrate. Your brain is being altered by the Cybermen.
Hi everyone, TardisGuy123 here, and today I'm going to be reviewing the second Doctor story, The Moonbase. Now, for a lot of people this is a fan favourite, and for a lot of others they don't mind it, but they just see it as a dull rerun of the 10th Planet. And there are a lot of similarities to the 10th Planet here, admittedly. You know, it is basically the 10th Planet, but on the moon in a lot of senses. You've got the whole base under siege element. People say that Cutler is replaced by, I forgot the character's name in this story. Cutler was from the 10th Planet. There's a character here played by Patrick Barr, who's the commander, whose name is for some reason escaping me. But, you know, people say they're the same character basically. I honestly don't think so. I think they are completely different. Patrick Barr's character is much more reasonable than Cutler was. And, you know, Cutler has that whole moment where he flips out and whatnot. But, you know, they have similarities. They do have more similarities than one would expect. But nevertheless, they are two very different stories, in my opinion. And to be honest, I prefer the Moonbase just. I think the Moonbase is much scarier, has much more scarier elements in it. And, you know, this set of Cybermen is my favourite design for the Cybermen that appeared here in the 10th Planet. Not in the 10th Planet, sorry, in Tomb of the Cybermen. You know, it's a very strong design, I feel, and gets the balance just right. You know, 10th Planet ones, they do look organic and whatnot. They do have that going for them, but here they still have that element of humanity to them before, you know, in a new series, but that's kind of all taken away, and they're basically just glorified robots, to be honest. And yeah, that's rather unfortunate. But anyway, this is not a rant about the new series. This is a review about the Moonbase. So yeah, Patrick Charlton, Fraser Hines, Annika Wills, and Michael Craze playing the Doctor, Jamie, Polly, almost said Perry there. Yeah, Polly and Ben. And, you know, that's rather a lot of companions. You know, kind of like a lot of people say the crowded TARDIS syndrome. Namely, that's brought up for season 19 with the Doctor, Tegan, Adric, and Nyssa. But, you know, here you can kind of see that coming across because Jamie, gosh, it's getting bad. Jamie spends a lot of the story in a hospital bed and whatnot. You know, which isn't really too bad. You know, he's written out well, and then when he does come into it, he does have a lot of strong dialogue and whatnot. But mainly, this story is the Doctor and Polly, actually. You know, Ben also suffers a bit because obviously this was originally written for the two companions, Polly and Ben. But then when Jamie was brought on the scene, a lot of Ben's lines went to Jamie, so they kind of like get half and half. Whereas Polly actually gets a good amount to do in this story. You know, some people say it's kind of like degrading her saying, "Oh, just make some coffee," and whatnot. But you know, that's far from the least she does in this story. She actually does quite a bit. You know, she demands that she comes with Jamie and Ben to squirt the Polly cocktail on the Cybermen. You know, she actually comes up with that idea to defeat the Cybermen and whatnot. So it's a very good story on her part. But people just look at the coffee bit and say, "Oh, that's kind of like anti-feminist and whatnot," but it isn't. That's just one element of the story, and you know there are quite a lot of other things that come across well for Polly. Now, of course, this is your typical base under siege story, and it does come with a lot of that. It's very much the typical base under siege story, the stereotypical, the archetypal, whatever you want to say about it. You know, it boils down to there's a base, it's on the moon, and there's Cybermen coming at them from all angles. But That's mainly during the second half. During the first half, there's this mystery story on the moon of kind of like what's happening, and by the end of part 1 you realise it's a Cybermen, but the characters don't realise that until the end of part 2, and it's odd how, you know, the Cybermen are very creepy. They don't kind of like come straight in. They remain in the shadows, and that's something that's lost in New Who, I feel, and actually is lost outside of the 60s. You know, kind of like the idea that there's Cybermen creeping around and whatnot. It's very sneaky and very scary, and it kind of like works very well. And the way they walk as well, kind of like that tiptoey feeling. You know, you kind of like get the feeling that they're sneaking up behind you and whatnot. It's very strong stuff, this episode. This story is. And, you know, next to Tomb of the Cybermen, it's probably the scariest Cyberman story. 10th Planet is quite scary as well, if you're of a certain age and whatnot. I guess that's the same for all Doctor Who stories, but, you know, it's got that very creepy essence about it, this story does. And then, in the final part 4, you have the full-on assault of Cybermen where they're going through all the different plans of attack and whatnot. Some people criticise them, like, why not just make another hole in the base and whatnot. And while it is kind of, maybe they only brought one projectile with them, I don't know. But, you know, whatever. I think it was actually made by Lisa. I'm not sure. It is a bit loose towards the end there, but nevertheless it is enjoyable. And, you know, it's a good final part to a rather strong story, a rather creepy story as well. And, you know, of course, parts 1 and 3 are missing from the archives, so they had to be animated for this release. Some people really, really dislike the animation. Others, you know, they would rather have kind of like the still images and whatnot. I personally quite like the animation. It's much better here than it was in the, what's it called, the Ice Warriors. That animation wasn't too good, but here it is actually very strong animation. Obviously, it can't replace the real thing, and it's not meant to. It's just meant to kind of like stand in for it. And actually, it's quite strong here. I'm not sure whether I prefer the 10th Planet animation. It's kind of like 10th Planet animation was very strong, and you know, it's very different style to that of the Moonbase and the Invasion animation. Now, the Invasion animation, some people argue is the best. I think it's a little bit too stylized. You know, there's not enough detail put in there. It's very angular. There could have been a bit more detail, but you know, it's still very good animation. But for me, it's probably between this animation and the 10th Planet animation. So I think overall that's all I've really got to say on this story. Yeah, if you haven't got the DVD release, you know what, I would say go get it now. It's been out for a year now, and you know, the coming soon trailer for the Underwater Menace, and the Underwater Menace doesn't even have a cover announced yet. It still hasn't come out at all. Apparently it's coming out this year, 2015. BBC Worldwide have announced that, and they have said that episodes 1 and 4 are going to be animated. So fingers crossed that's along the way. And yeah, well, thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you all next time with the review of The Widow's Assassin. Bye everyone.